Welcome to the MOTYV Podcast. It's been a while since I've said that, and creates a lot of emotion, actually. What a neat and awesome time I have had in between. And I apologize to anybody who really loved listening. I didn't say anything about stopping. It just happened. And that's life. But I didn't just quit. I definitely did something with a lot of purpose, and I want to talk to you about it. But it is so good to be here. And I feel myself being pulled really, really powerfully to talk to men. And women and any female who's listening to this, don't take that as a way of thinking like, well, this podcast isn't for me. You will find, though, that I am speaking to men, but I think it can be just as valuable, if not even more valuable, for females. And my hope is to understand them, to actually understand men in a greater way. But in simplicity, being a man of God is already hard enough. And my hope is that the MOTYV Podcast can help make it just a little bit easier. Doing hard things without skills is hard. And doing things without principle is even harder. And so the problem that all of us have as human beings is that we come up against situations every single day, right? And the question is always, do we know what principle truly will solve this problem? And so when it comes to my experience with so many men now, I realized how grit focused many men are, and which is such an amazing trait. But they're holding on with white knuckles and just doing whatever they can to get by, but they are missing certain principles and skills and opportunities to get better and to solve problems in a better way that's more sustaining. And so again, it's already hard enough, right? But to do it without help is just not possible. And honestly, I'm tired of gatekeeping all of these skills and principles that I think I've been given from God to, and I just want to start giving them away. So that's the hope here, is that this podcast now, I guess if you call it 3.0, I feel like I've started it and stopped it a couple times, but it's to help it make it a little easier for men. So what I want to do today is I'm going to talk to you about where I've been first, very quickly. And I shouldn't say very quickly, but I'm going to talk to you about it. I want to make sure we get to you, and then I want to share something with you about what my deepest why is with men. So when I was a young person, if you will, I would say like early 20s, I realized actually in a parking lot one time that I had a mission in this life to help cure pornography. And it's been there, right? It's been there my whole life. I give talks in church and do presentations, and I find it that no matter what the topic is, I always find that it seems like I always bring in this area of like, and if this isn't happening for your life, a lot of the time you can get into addiction, right? You can get into something that helps you cope and take away pain. And it's just always been there. And the word liberate, you've heard me say it before, but the word liberate means a ton to me, right? I have so many experiences in my life where I just knew, like I look back and I'm like, yeah, the reason I did that without even thinking was to liberate somebody else. And why do I do things like I'll put in energy and energy and energy for something, and it's one of the common threads is if it has anything to do with setting somebody free, I just have immense energy for it. And I think, again, that's motive, right? That's what motive means. It's not a word that means motivation. It's a word that truly means purpose and a deep sense of I would say divine reason for doing something. And does that motivate you? Sure. But I'm not a big motivation person. I'm way more about discipline. And so 2 years ago, I filmed the last podcast, ironically, and I don't even think you saw it, but my video equipment failed me. I had actually interviewed somebody who had overcome some serious addiction. It was a beautiful thing, but the video equipment failed, and it kind of just got me into this weird place and got me second guessing a little bit. But I just started thinking, like, you know what? If I don't do this, I'm going to regret it a lot. And to be real with you, I'm 40 now and never been balder in my life, which is great. But my dad was pretty much diagnosed with ALS when he was 40. And so in the last while, I've been going through like this interesting moment in my life where if I only had 3 years to live, he died when he was 43. And I think, okay, if I was diagnosed right now, what would I do? And the clarity that's brought is huge, where I know for sure with my dying time that if I could leave something to my own sons, I have 2 beautiful sons, that could possibly help them, that if I were to die at 43, that they would have something to guide them, to give them a framework, to give them modeling, to give them principles and answers, and to take away shame, to take away immense self-hate, and to replace it with compassion and with the love of God and true purity and forgiveness. Then that's worth every bit of my time. And that's what I've created in the last 2 years. I spent my time in this very studio, not doing podcasts, but writing, filming, organizing, and building a pornography recovery program, which is now a digital online course it's video based and has an awesome PDF workbook that goes along with it. But you watch videos clip by clip, and it takes you from start to finish with all the principles and beliefs and skills that I know that I've used with men for now years and years and years, and in my own life, to guide men from captivity to liberation. And ironically, it's called Liberate, right? So I named it Liberate, and that's what I've been doing. And men will come in, and when they really struggle, right? When they come in and say, you know what, I'm done with this. And that's who this course is for. It's for men who say, you know what, I'm done. I need help. Sadly, that takes a long time for men a lot of the time. And so if you're one that thinks that you're not done, like, it's not for you. But if you also think that you can just keep going with it and somehow figure it out on your own, like, you got another thing coming, I promise. Like, you need help. The same way if you had cancer or any other disease, like, you would seek help, right? Your life would be on the line, and sadly, you would seek help. And I say sadly because your spiritual life is on the line, or your relationship life is on the line. Your relationship with yourself is on the line. And the deception is that it isn't, until you make a bad mistake, right? And so as I've built this, there's been some seriously spiritual moments. It is a Christ-centered, clinically focused course, and it involves 7 modules. Ending in the last 4 modules are the bread and butter of the whole thing, and they involve what I call the 4 P's of liberation, and they are these principles that I believe, or I would say these problems. They are principles too, but they are 4 problems that men have to overcome and really make intense progress with in order to really recover and to liberate their life. And so the first P is pain. A lot of this podcast, I really hope, focuses on pain, to help men really know what to do to make their pain in their life a little bit easier. The second one is porn itself. Okay, that module has a bunch of videos to help with pornography itself, just as its own entity. And then the third P is pride. And again, video after video to help men to break down pride. And the last one is purpose. And so as you can hear it, pain is an issue. Pornography is an issue. Pride is an issue. And purpose doesn't sound like an issue, but it is when your purpose is to stop pornography, when your purpose is about not doing something, which is what a lot of men get tied up into, that now that I'm stuck into this, I have to get done with this in order to move on in my life. And it's just not true. But when it's real, when your purpose is now lost in addiction, to solve the addiction, like Satan's got you tight. He's got you really tight. And so the course uses an amazing case study that I just have loved writing about. And I took the interpretive liberty to create, which is Peter the prophet, Simon, son of Jonah. He is my case study. I propose that he actually had an addiction and he needed to overcome it. And during his journey with Jesus Christ, he learns how to give that up with Jesus. And ironically, it's not an addiction that you would just, freak out about, but the principles are there, that it controls him and he just couldn't give it up. And I know it's going to make you laugh a little bit, but it was to fishing and to his boat. And those two things combined are a powerful pattern in his life about many moments when he lapses, when he keeps going to it, and the relationship that he has with his boat and with fishing is not super healthy, and Christ keeps calling him away from it, and yet he doesn't do it until the very end, when Jesus has actually already passed away and resurrected. So that's the case study of the program. And then the first two modules, they go over some principles, and the first one, and then the very, very first one gets you going on what's called resistance and why you won't change and what's always been holding you back. And it's a powerful module. So there's 7 modules. Okay. And I know I kind of worked from the backside to the front, but yeah, there's 7 modules. And to be real, when I finished it, I remember going home and I told Shelly, I said, babe, I know it sounds really weird. I'm not trying to be morbid or careless with my life. I said, but I truly do believe, like, if I died now, like I feel good. Like I feel okay. Like I know I have purpose beyond this, but the world is dealing with a plague. And I do believe that what I created together with God, that sounded really arrogant. I'm not trying to be. I just know that the men who are already using this, it's not surprising to me what it's doing to them, because this isn't new. I took all of the thousands of hours and the years that I spent with men, and took all of the principles and data that I could to figure out, what did I do with them? And from the men who were changing, what were the themes? Like, what was actually happening? And that's where these 4 P's came from, is that all the P's were happening. The men who truly walked away, they settled their pain with Jesus. They settled their pornography with Christ. They got in touch with their pride that was keeping them away from Jesus, and they aligned their purpose with what Christ told them. Like, there's a full-fledged change of spiritual transformation with Christ to satisfy these issues that are there. That these instead of what most men do, which is hyper focus just on pornography. And that's where they singularly come into me and say, I feel like I've tried everything. And I say, you know what? You probably have. You've tried everything that you know, but have you even tapped into your pain? And a lot of the guys, when I say that, they're like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean by pain? I'm like, yeah, that's the problem, is even by me saying pain, like, what pain is, but the specifics of emotional pain and relationship pain and then the pain I want to talk about in the second half of this podcast is there. So that's what I've been doing, and it's on MOTYV.com, and it's there for anybody. And all you got to do is go and click on it and sign up for it, and you have complete access to it immediately to do the work on your own time, in your own way. You can rewatch the videos. Obviously, it's yours for the time, and so that's what I've been doing, which has been great. But it's been so exciting for me to jump back in here, and to be honest, I feel, again, like always, a ton of resistance to doing it. I know that I want to, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal to jump in here and sit in front of a microphone and talk. I mean, I don't have anybody else in here. It's just me. And so I don't know how many of you can just have a conversation with yourself for a long time repeatedly, but I guess I can. I'm kind of built that way. So I want to talk to you about my why. Why do I want to help men? men, it's because you have a problem, and you have a problem that is so deep within you that you absolutely do not know it's there. But when I say it to you, when I teach you this, you will almost feel like I didn't teach you something, because you will, when you hear it, most of the men I ever teach this to are like, wow, like this is me. And I have shared it on here before a little bit. So it's not, if you've listened, it's not, it might be not totally new to you, but you have this deep issue. And I guess I'm going to give you a bit of a forewarning that when you listen to what I'm going to tell you, it's going to sabotage or change your mind forever. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to change as a human, but it will take away a lot of, I would say, ignorance and in your life to why you've done the things you've done, like why you continue to do the things you do. It'll probably explain a lot of it. And I'm not trying to overwhelm you, but I just know this is the message that I have to give to the world. And it's a real one. And so the problem that you have is your relationship to love. I had someone tell me just yesterday, they said, everything in this life is earned except for God's love. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? You are so right, but not many people know that. Most men have a relationship with love that is also earned. And because you earn love every day of your life, it is tiring. And it creates a lot of issue. And so what I want to teach you is what I call the 5 A's of masculine pain or male pain. And it's something that I go over in the modules as well, but this is what I want to teach men and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So as a young kid, as a young boy, as any baby, that when they're born, they have to go through this first A, which is attachment. And then they go on to another A called attunement. So I'm going to talk about these first two, because these are what create your relationship to love. Okay. So when you're born, your caregiver is the person that you are supposed to build a really deep bond with. And as you build that bond, it creates a sense of deep safety in you to explore your life, to explore the staircase, to explore your mouth, to explore everything. Your hands are the first. If you watch an infant, their hands are their first area of exploration, their mouth. And as they become more mobile, then their feet become that, and they're supposed to just keep exploring. Well, when anybody ventures away from the thing that makes them feel the safest, which is in this case a baby, as their caregiver is what makes them feel the safest, or at least that's the way it's supposed to be. And so when they venture off, guess what happens? Their heart actually starts to increase, and the heart rate goes up, and they have this arousal. And the way that it is soothed is by turning to the caregiver. And the caregiver's job is to be able to look at that baby, give them like body language, like their face often, to like, it's okay, you can keep going, or to tell them to come back or what have you. There's constant communication that's happening like hundreds of times a day, where the baby is seeking the face of the caregiver to figure out what is safe and what isn't. Is the baby thinking this? No, it's basically all emotion and instinct, right? So when a caregiver is very consistent, the baby will form what's called a secure attachment. With a secure attachment, there's not usually a whole lot of pain that occurs, as far as like feeling and believing that you are lovable, and that as you grow up a little bit older, like when you want to turn and turn to a parent, like it feels very safe to do so. If it wasn't safe though, let's say that, and sadly in our society right now, we're in a dilemma. Like we're in a serious problem with parents raising babies with their cell phone, meaning babies look at a parent's face it's like 20 to 30 times a minute. Like they are constantly tracking their parent's face because the baby doesn't know what it is. Okay. A baby has no idea that it's a baby. A baby just knows that it has this parent. It takes over 1.5 years for it to actually become like self-identifiable, if you will. And so this baby is constantly looking for that assurance. But if a parent's constantly in their phone and not making eye contact with the baby, you're actually missing out on a lot of mirror neurons, which create empathy. Okay. Mirror neurons create empathy, and which allows that person to become like a very empathic person. There are some child psychologists like Bruce Perry that are saying that we might be entering like the most emotionally, he actually uses the phrase emotionally retarded generation we've ever had. It's almost like a learned autism in certain ways, where there is a lack of deep empathy because the baby hasn't been able to read the mom or dad's face often enough to actually create empathic mirror neurons. And so what happens is let's just say you're a little boy and you either have this like really good connection with your parents or attachment, or you don't. And if you look back and you can answer the question of who did you turn to when you were little, and the answer is I don't really know. Well, guess what? Like that's a real clear indicator of that your attachment was probably kind of a struggle, and that actually creates and forms this first area of pain. Well, then you get older and you begin to have emotion, right? Well, I shouldn't say you begin, but you're like 3 or 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, and you have these emotional experiences. And I'm talking to boys right now, not girls. I'm talking to boys. And you'll know what I mean by this, right? So then you turn to dad and you're like, Dad, Johnny hit me. And this is where you're seeking the second A. First A was attachment, but now that's kind of that phase is kind of like, I shouldn't say come and gone because it's never gone, but you're more stable there. And then you're seeking this attunement from dad, which attunement is like deep connection, deep understanding, empathy. It's to be known by somebody and you like experience being known by them. And you say, Johnny hit me. And the day before you got a hug, or a month before you got a hug and a love and are you okay? And tell me what happened. And then boys, what happens? Come on, you can tell me, you can't, you're not here on the podcast, but even with good fathers, a lot of the time at some point or along that age, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, the dad starts to say, you're fine, or you deserved it, or did you deserve it? Did you deserve it? Well, what'd you do? And all of a sudden this kid is like, that's painful. And it starts to, okay, I just turned to my dad for a hug and he used to give me one, and maybe even my mom as well. But now I got lectured for being hurt. And again, parents, am I saying that fathers and mothers can't like say, was it your fault? No, I'm not. But what I am saying is we need attunement deeply first a lot of the time. And it lacks a lot. And I love the word attunement. I've said it on the podcast before because it's very similar to the word atonement. You're going to hear me say it a ton throughout this entire podcast, but yeah. So this boy now has, a desire to be attuned to, and then that fails. So, and let's just say that this boy also had a struggling attachment. And so there's pain there in the attachment. And then there's pain in the attunement that keeps happening. Because again, this boy is gonna turn to the parent quite a bit. But let's just say, I need to lean forward here and get sore. But let's just say that the boy, he's like, okay, I'm gonna he looks for attunement multiple times, and multiple times he's met with rejection, where there isn't the hug that he wanted, there isn't what he desired, and he receives more pain. So Johnny hurt him too, and now dad hurt him, or now mom hurt him, or both, Well, guess what? When the brain experiences pain, it adapts. And it adapts very quickly to do what? To minimize pain. So if you put your hand on the stove, the brain remembers it and says, don't do that again. Well, if turning to your parents is like burning your hand, you're not going to do it as much anymore. And then maybe you'll venture off and try it again. And man, it turned out badly again, or it was good for a minute, then it wasn't. And I hate to say this, but it's just the truth for a lot of kids, but a lot more so a lot of boys. I see it in my own life, right? I see it. I know all this stuff, and I have 2 boys and 2 girls. And it's incredible to me how much easier and how much I would say how much more second nature it is for me to attune to my daughters than it is to my sons. And it's not because they're older, it's because of their gender. There's something about being a father to young boys where I want to prepare them for how tough this world is, right? Like this world's not going to do any favors. It's a very justice focused world, and they have to have some skin. Like they've got to be strong. And I will say the word tough. I just don't define it the way that most men say it. And but at the same time, they have to be able to be loved and to be held and to know that love is unconditional. But that's what I'm getting to, is when attunement and attachment are violated to certain degrees, the boy begins to build this relationship with love that's not so great, right? And think about it, when you think about the first few years of life, when attachment, let's just say attachment happens really well, and now I have this feeling that love is just there. It's not even thought of. It's just like there inside your soul. But then it turns backwards with attunement, and attunement starts like shifting gears and taking it backward. It's kind of quite a whiplash, And so now Johnny Boy, not Johnny Boy, he's the one who hurt. But now you're that little boy though, and let's just say you're 8 or 9 years old, and you achieve something for the first time. Let's just say you go and you make you're playing basketball during your rec league, and you make a shot, and who's there with you is your dad. And you look over at the audience, and who's there cheering you on is him. And he's clapping and yelling your name, and little you feels such a strong emotion that I would say is loving. Like you are being seen by him, like you're being witnessed by your dad, and you're being cheered on, and that's awesome. However, when that cheer and that validation comes in, and there is an absence inside of you of an assurance of love from him. Okay. Like it doesn't mean that you don't think he doesn't love you, but at the same time, you don't think love is just something that's like really, that's always there. Like, again, that it's like conditional. So if there's this doctrine inside of you that's already being built that love is earned, and then you achieve something and you gain this approval, this is where Satan does his best work. And it's what my life has been. And my dad is awesome, and my mom was awesome, but it did happen to me where I began to believe, without even knowing it, that approval is love. And I've coined this. I've coined this a lot. I probably should get like a trademark on it already, but I call it approvelism, which is the original addiction, where approval becomes the thing that helps you soothe the lack of attunement and the lack of attachment, or the pain of attachment. And again, any substance or anything that soothes pain over and over and over again is going to be highly addicting. If that's Jesus, then great, be addicted to Jesus. But a lot of time it isn't until later on in life. And so here's you, this little boy, that you felt that approval happen. And in the absence of being like looked at, like attuned to by your dad or your parents, guess what you do more of? You seek approval. And how do you do that? Through achievement. So those are 4 A's right now. I know there's a lot of them, but you go through attachment, and then attunement kind of struggles. Approval begins to satisfy attachment and attunement. And guess what the mechanism is for approval? It is achievement. So now you continue to achieve and achieve and achieve into adulthood, and you wonder why you can't get off this treadmill. And here's the hard part, right? Is a high school kid and a young kid, like achievement is, you kind of have like this checklist of things that you can do. You can get good grades, you can date the girl, you can play sports, you can do a lot of things, you can go on a mission. Like there's a lot of things you can just check off that feel very approving. And then you kind of move on, and you got to find the next one. Well, then you get past all that, and you enter your career. And what used to be these little like landmarks of like, well, do this now, and it keeps you safe in your approval. Then you get in your career and there aren't landmarks anymore that are like short term. Now you just have, how much money do you make? What kind of car do you drive? How does your body look? How does your hair look, right? Like I know that one, that's for sure. And there is a list, but it's like a lot longer of a road to attain those things, to achieve those things. And so the motive behind so much of your achievement is what? It's love. And maybe a lot of you, if you're listening in your car, maybe you just said approval out loud. You're not wrong, but it's love through the mechanism of approval. But if love, think about it, love is the most instinctual, it's the most powerful substance ever. Like it drives people and never fails. It never gives up. Like it is the only antidote to pain. And so if the only real medicine to pain is love, and it's also the thing that we just want innately because we came from love, we came from a God of love, we miss that love, like we just have it. It's there. We want it so much. But when it gets misaligned in our doctrinal belief inside of us that love is something that we earn, and approval has become the validation that I did it. The problem is, right, you have to keep achieving the rest of your life. You have to keep seeking that approval all the time. So this is where it gets interesting for me, because the fifth A is addiction. Okay, that's where pornography comes in. But again, is pornography the only addiction? No, that's why it's all addiction. I just decided to focus on pornography because it's such a rampant problem. But it's addiction, right? So now I have all this. I have this attachment kind of stuff. I have this attunement stuff. And again, I'm a dude, so like I don't even know this. And I think many of you listening, and many of you wives listening too, you will, like if you listen to this, you will understand your husband at a level you never dreamed. Because now it's like I have all this stuff inside of me, and it's subconscious, it's just suppressed pain. Then I'm like on the rat race of approval and achievement. And let's just say that I'm my age, okay, 40 years old. Let's just go, achieve, get that approval. That's painful too, because the achievement is super painful, not to mention the motive behind it is very bad. It's off. It's not correct. So it just burns you out. And then we wonder why our mental health struggles so bad. Well, guess what feeds that? That's the feeder. So whenever I do therapy, it's like, let's look at the deepest part of you and see if all these other things are symptomatic. So is anxiety your problem? Is depression your problem? Is shame your problem? No. Have they become problems? Sure. But the real issue is what you think of love. And I call that like the testimony of you. Like you might have a testimony of God and of Jesus and of many beautiful things, but what about you? No offense, man, your testimony is terrible about you. And I know it because of the way you speak to yourself, right? So shame becomes your motivator. So you beat yourself up, keep shaming yourself into achievement. Then you achieve it. You have a moment of glory, a moment of happy, but then what do you got to do? You got to keep going. So do I think approval is bad? No. Okay. Approval is and always meant to be a vertical principle. As I've learned these A's that I love, I'm writing about them. I want to publish about, like they're everything to me. As I learned about these, I was studying in the Bible and I came upon Jesus's baptism, and I had a crazy epiphany that I saw for the first time ever, even though I'd heard it many times. So Jesus is baptized, and as we know, he's baptized and he comes out of the water and he hears a voice, and that voice is God the Father. And he says, "This is my beloved Son." And then he says, comma, "in whom I am well pleased." And right before me, I saw this beautiful pattern that God did not say, Jesus, I approve of you because of how you've behaved, and therefore I love you. He said, you're my beloved son. He said, my, right? The word my is whose you are. Possessive. Beloved. It's a deep, deep, meaningful word of who I cherish, that I love so deeply. And son is identity in direct lineage to me, which means you can become like me. Pretty powerful. But it was by itself. This is my beloved son. So the attunement and the attachment checked off. No conditions. But then he said, in whom I am well pleased. Okay. That's a conditional statement. That is approval. In other words, Christ was experiencing validation the way that our fathers have cheered us on at games, but instead of that approval, meaning anything about love for Jesus, it had everything to do about trust with Jesus. Being a vertical principle, Jesus's relationship to the Father centered in seeking his approval in everything he did is the healthiest relationship any man can have with approval. The phrase I use all the time is that boys seek approval sideways. Men seek approval upwards. I know there are many of you, and I'm not shaming you. I think I'm trying to be empathic with you, right? Where many of you that are listening to this right now, you are a man, like you're a grown man. And if I asked you, how much do you believe like you are one, that you really feel like a man, like you believe you're one? Most men, when I ask this, I say 1 out of 10. Give me a number. And most men are at a 6 or lower, usually a 5 or lower. And I'm like, yeah, like, no, that's why. I'm not trying to tell you that you're not one, but the reason you don't feel like one is because whoever approval you seek, that's who you worship. So worship is a form of seeking approval. When you go to church on Sundays, for most religions, if you take of a form of sacrament, there is a desire to see where you are in relationship with God. That's approval. Because love with him needs to be checked off. Like, that's a fact. Like, he loves you by the evidence of giving his son to die for you. That's just, it's fact. Now, does that mean you feel it in your soul? No, for a lot of you, no, you need to do that work. But the facts are there. Like, he loves you through pure evidence of giving his son to die for you, and many other reasons, because he created you, because he's your father. Like, that's just an innate thing. But when it comes to seeking his approval, men, we need to do work, because you cannot, no man feels like a man who's all about himself. And the principle I teach is that you cannot serve somebody like men do. You can't serve someone and seek their approval at the same time. It's sickening, actually. It doesn't work. And it actually throws your soul into a kind of a weird loop. You can either be outward or inward. And most men, because of their relationship with love, they lack that ability to serve, because they're so busy about maintaining approval. Because why? Because approval means I'm lovable. And God literally said, he who seeks to save his life shall lose it, but he who seeks to give his life for my sake shall find it. That's the sermon. Like, if you're saving yourself is like constant approval seeking. And think of the amount of values and boundaries that you've given up to seek other people's approval. The lengths that you have gone, the dreams or careers or shiny things you have chased to seek approval that have taken you out of your purpose. just to leave you so tired and then sadly maybe be found in addiction. That's the problem. And when this heals, okay, as this heals, I promise you your addictions can change. It's really awesome. But don't get me wrong. I will say it boldly. Your original addiction is approval. And it's because it's sideways and it's supposed to be vertical. Okay, it's not supposed to be a horizontal principle. Service is horizontal. What do we do with each other? Sideways, side to side. That's what I mean. Like horizontal is everyone's on an even playing field. So what do real men do? They serve people. That's a life of meaning, serving people. And what do I do is I don't seek their glory. I seek the approval of God only. Now, that's the ideal. So don't be like, oh my gosh, I need to, like I'm devastated. But begin now, right? Begin now to change and figure out in your life what you need to do to change your relationship with approval. But I will tell you, you're going to have a load of resistance because your ego has been built. You've created masks. You've created personas. You've created a personality sometimes that makes sure that approval is okay. But how you feeling? Are you happy? Right? Do you have confidence with God? Is your relationship good with your wife? Are you just constantly tired? Are you constantly feeling like burned out? Are you actually quite numb? That's one of the bigger, I would say, symptoms of like long lasting approval seeking is like you're just numb because it's just exhausted, so tired. So this is my message to the world. And I want every man that comes in my area, in my life, to know that you're loved. You're just loved. But I know you have a hard time believing that because I did. And the only reason I know all of these A's is because I'm a poster child for them. And I'm not going to take the time on this podcast to share it all, but this took over my life. And in my search to heal, to figure myself out, that's what I learned. And that these A's have dominated my life. And now the coolest part is that the solution is so simple. It's serve other people deeply, connect to God and seek his approval, but ultimately like seek deep connection with people. Now that's easy to say, but not easy to do. And, I had a session with someone just not too long ago, and I knew this person didn't want to come in. And so I kind of felt a little bit like we'll see how this goes, because I don't think he wants to be here. But I decided to pray before the session. I said, Heavenly Father, I know he doesn't want to be here, and I need to face myself because I can feel my approval kind of coming up where maybe I want him to like me, or I want him to like this, or I want him to think that like I can jive with him or whatever. And I can feel that happening inside of me. So will you please bless me with love and help me to have the courage to show him that love, because I resist it at times, because men showing other men love is kind of hard. And so he comes in and we got to this really cool part of the conversation. And I just said, listen, man, like I just want you to know, like, I love you and I'm glad you're here. And that before you came in, I prayed for that love. And when I said that, he had a beautiful experience with himself where he felt loved. And I know so much that it's such a hard thing to experience, because we have to face our pride. We have to face the ego that we've built to protect ourselves from the pain that we had in the past. So are your parents awesome? Yes, they did the best they could. There's no reason to blame them for anything, no matter how well or bad they did. It's now your responsibility to shift your relationship with love forever. And it's my hope that I can help you do that. So keep tuning in, and we'll talk on the next one.